joy comes in time. Don't get weary, you gotta endure, 'cause one day you'll suffer no more. To his hand and let him give you peace. Let his wisdom give you guidance. Give all your worries to him. I'm trying to tell you, 'cause I've been there, and by his grace I'm still here. 'Cause you got to hold on. Don't you get weak, you can hold on. Don't you give up, be strong. You don't have to cry, hold on. We can make it.
I know that the fire can get deep, and it can seem like every part of you is weak, but that's when he is strong. Just know it won't be long. Don't be hasty, it's a marathon.
Just hold on to his hand and
Let him give you peace.
let his wisdom give you guidance.
Give all your worries to him. Don't get weary, 'cause I've been there, and by his grace I'm still here. 'Cause you got to
Hold on,
don't you get weak, you can
hold on.
You're gonna make it.
Be strong.
You don't have to cry.
Hold on. We can make it. Hold on. Hold on. Be strong. Hold on. Hold on. Be strong. Yeah. 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 'Cause he said in his word, hold on. Cast your cares upon him. Hold on. Hold on. Be strong. We can make it. Hold on. Hold on. You can make it. Hold on. Gotta believe it. Be strong. Keep the faith. Keep the faith. Just hold on. Hold on. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hold on. Yeah. Be strong. We can make it.
Yeah.
I know sometimes you wanna give up, 'cause you're tired and fed up, but joy comes in time. Don't get weary, you gotta endure, 'cause one day you'll suffer no more. To his hand and let him give you peace. Let his wisdom give you guidance. Give all your worries to him. I'm trying to tell you, 'cause I've been there, and by his grace I'm still here. 'Cause you got to hold on. Don't you get weak, you can hold on. Don't you give up, be strong. You don't have to cry, hold on. We can make
got to
hold on.
Don't you get weak, you can
Hold on.
You're gonna make it.
Be strong.
You don't have to.
Shalom, Israel. Welcome back to another edition of Bible Basics. My name is SHAMAR, and to my left,
Yashan the Posh.
Yashan Napash. So tonight we are going to be going into fornication. Speaking of, from at least two perspectives, as far as the laws on fornication, as well as touching on spiritual fornication. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 18. Let's start at verse 1.
Leviticus chapter 18, verse 1.
Oh, I'm sorry, real fast. I believe fornication isn't just, so if you look up fornication, right, it speaks about adultery predominantly. But fornication also goes into like immoral or unlawful acts of sex. So it's not limited specifically to a woman going outside of her marriage. It's not limited to what we know classically as adultery, but also homosexuality, bestiality, unlawful forms or immoral forms of sex that the Most High has commanded us not to partake in. Leviticus 18.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, I am the Lord your God. After the doings of the land of Egypt, Shalakia, wherein ye dwelt, shall ye not do? And after the doings of the land of Canaan, whither I bring you, shall ye not do? Neither shall ye walk in their ordinances. Ye shall do my judgments and keep mine ordinances to walk therein. I am the Lord your God.
So he said, after the doings of the land of Egypt. So two reasons why that's important, because Egypt was also guilty of, as far as fornication is concerned, they were very heavily into a lot of immoral acts of sex, right? Homosexuality. There were even times where in Egyptian and I believe Greek society or Roman society, where an older man would take on a squire, like he would be a mentor, but he would be homosexual with the young man that he was building up. So many of those things our people were learning in Egypt, right? You see a lot of hieroglyphs. You see a lot of pictures dealing with homosexuality, dealing with Egypt. You even see instances of bestiality with dealing with Egypt. So the Most High, as we're coming out of the land, he's saying, you cannot be like that. You cannot bring those things with you into the land that I'm going to give you. Go ahead.
Ye shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, which if a man do, he shall live in them. I am the Lord. None of you shall approach to any that is near of kin to him to uncover their nakedness. I am the Lord.
So the first thing he says is you're not supposed to approach anyone that is near of kin to you. And then he starts to go into specifically, well, who's near of kin? Go ahead.
The nakedness of thy father or the nakedness of thy mother shalt thou not uncover. She is thy mother. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness.
So then he starts to get specific. So you're not supposed to see your mother or your father naked. Go ahead.
The nakedness of thy father's wife shalt thou not uncover. It is thy father's nakedness.
So you're also not only taking another man's wife would be unlawful, but you're not even supposed to see them naked, especially not he's talking about your father's wife. So she might not be your biological mother. Maybe your father had multiple wives, but that's still his wife. Go ahead.
The nakedness of thy sister, the daughter of thy father, or daughter of thy mother, whether she be born at home or born abroad, even their nakedness thou shalt not uncover.
So if you have, right, we understand that the man carries the seed. He's how you track your genealogy. So whether you have a sister that is born of your father, but let's just say your father, had another wife that he took in a totally different land. You had never even seen this woman. She's still your sister biologically. Now, if it was through your mother, y'all have different fathers, but it's still your sister. That's not someone that you can approach in this fashion. Go ahead.
Verse 10, The nakedness of thy son's daughter or thy daughter's daughter, even their nakedness thou shalt not uncover, for there is thine own nakedness.
So your grandkids, not someone that you can be involved with. Go ahead.
The nakedness of thy father's wife's daughter, begotten of thy father, she is thy sister. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy father's sister. She is thy father's kinswoman.
So your aunt on your mother's side, and I believe it also then read verse 13.
Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy mother's sister, for she is thy mother's near kinswoman.
So any aunt, whether it be on your mother's side, your father's side, that's not someone that you would be able to approach. Go ahead.
Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy father's brother. Thou shalt not approach to his wife. She is thine aunt.
So, and your uncles, your aunts. So pretty much it's going into everyone that you're not supposed to be at all sexually involved with. Do those things happen in the world? Absolutely. Predominantly, I think that Esau is notorious for those things. You know, people talk about what goes on in Alabama and, you know, a lot of these backwoods states and inbreeding. That's what this is called, inbreeding, right? There is, which we'll talk about, when there is a time as far as or who amongst this it is okay to approach as far as being in a family. But all of these are considered, you know, inbreeding. These is not people that you're supposed to be approaching. Go ahead.
Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy daughter-in-law. She is thy son's wife. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy brother's wife. It is thy brother's nakedness. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of a woman and her daughter. Neither shalt thou take her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter to uncover her nakedness, for they are her near kinswoman. It is wickedness.
So he said, not your daughter-in-law, right? Not your brother's wife. And it says, uncover the nakedness of a woman and her daughter. Neither shalt thou take her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter. So when you married a woman, if she had children, you were not supposed to have your pick of those children. You couldn't uncover the nakedness of a woman and her daughter. Go ahead.
Neither shalt thou take a wife to her sister to vex her, to uncover her nakedness beside the other in her lifetime.
So it's also talking about you're not supposed to have a woman and her sister, or two women really at the same time. It says beside the other in her lifetime. Go ahead.
Also, thou shalt not approach unto a woman to uncover her nakedness as long as she is put apart for her uncleanness.
So when it's speaking about uncleanness, that's specifically talking about when she's set apart for her menstrual cycle. That's not a time that you guys are able to have sex with each other. Go ahead. Actually, let's hold that real quick. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 15, verse 25.
You ready?
Yeah.
Leviticus 15 and 25. And if a woman have an issue of her blood many days out of the time of her separation, or if it run beyond the time of her separation, all the days of the issue of her uncleanness shall be as the days of her separation. She shall be unclean.
So when you read, I just want to get it real quick out of the concordance. It says the days of her separation from 5074, it's actually H5079, Nidah, from 5074. Properly, rejection by implication, impurity, especially personal, menstruation, right? Or moral, idolatry, and says it goes into other things, but it's specifically talking about the time of her menstruation. So, again, it's not all that far-fetched to see how easy of a connection it is to make between this Egypt and the last Egypt, because those are things that are commonly taught. What do they call it? Running red lights, right? They make underpants, they make cups and all these different alternatives so that a woman can still have sex on her period, but that's literally not supposed to be happening. That is a sin in the eyes of the Most High God. Go ahead. I'm sorry, let's go back to Leviticus 18, starting in verse 20.
Leviticus 18, verse 20. Moreover, thou shalt not lie carnally with thy neighbor's wife to defile thyself with her.
And we already know that that's full-blown adultery, right? But that's, again, something that was commonly being practiced in Egypt. And don't we see these things happening today? All of these things that we're talking about, you do see now, as far as incest, it's less common, but you do still see instances of those even in Israel, though they may be in the world, that are partaking of those things. You see people who have relationships with their near kinsmen, and you definitely see adultery. You definitely see, that being a popular topic in conversation. You see it in movies. You see it constantly being glamorized for a man to have his
music.
Yeah, it's constantly being glamorized for a man to take his father's wife, for a man to deal with a near kinswoman, for a man to take his neighbor's wife. All those different things. It's constant and it's common. It's to the point where it's what people are glorying over. Took your girl, I did this, I did that. She was like that with you, and it's like, bro, but you're literally breaking up a happy home for one, but then it's like, what glory is that? You took a woman, you got her to cheat, now she gonna be loyal to you, right? But look at all the things that have already been around for so long in the previous Egypt. Go ahead.
Verse 21, and thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire to Molech, neither shalt thou profane the name of thy God. I am the Lord.
And that was another thing that our people were doing was offering our children, literally giving them as burnt offerings to another god. Go ahead.
Thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind. It is abomination.
So how does a man lie with a woman? He's talking about sex, right? It says that we're not to do that with another man. This is speaking of homosexuality. So all of these things, again, common practices in Egypt are not things that we are supposed to be doing today and not things that we can walk out of this land with. Go ahead.
Neither shalt thou lie with any beast to defile thyself therewith. Neither shall any woman stand before a beast to lie down thereto. It is confusion.
And then bestiality. I believe a couple years back, if I'm not mistaken, the U.S. Army allows for animals, or they allow for bestiality amongst soldiers. It's to a point where these things aren't even illegal. A lot of people are partaking of these things, some people openly, some people not openly, but you see the amount of views or the amount of gravitation that these things pull in, and you know it's someone somewhere that is engaging in these things. Go ahead.
Defile not ye yourselves in any of these things, for in all these the nations are defiled, which is cast out before you, and the land is defiled. Therefore I do visit the iniquity thereof upon it, and the land itself vomited out her inhabitants. Ye shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, and shall not commit any of these abominations, neither any of your own nation, nor any stranger that sojourneth among you.
So the Most High said, because of all these things, the land is defiled. It's just, you can think of it, or at least I reason with it like a fly landing on your food. You know how it might land on one specific spot, but it'd be like, man, that whole part is just unclean. I don't even want it. Like, it's dirty now. I don't even want this. That's how the Most High is viewing fornication. Like, he said it literally defiles the land that we're in. That's why it's not supposed to be any of these acts of fornication. It's not even supposed to be whoredom, prostitution, because that's what? Adultery. A woman can only get lawfully married to one man at a time. Until that man dies, or in the New Testament in 1 Corinthians 7, it speaks of, the different instances of marriage that it would be acceptable. That woman's supposed to be with that man, right? So if a woman who's laying with all these different men making a transaction, she's really supposed to have been married to the first one. And then at that point, everything after that is adultery. Every transaction is adultery. And that's how the Most High said the land is being defiled. Because people ain't committing adultery alone. They're partaking, then they go. Now they're adulterers. Then they go home and sleep with their spouses. They go, and that spirit carries over. It trickles down, whatever the case may be, but it spreads. And then next thing you know, you have instances like how we see on Figueroa. It's notorious, damn near worldwide, or at least America-wide, where there are host roles, as we call them, right? You literally know where you go to find prostitutes. Right up the street, sisters out there half naked with practically nothing on and trying to wave down cars. Be there early in the morning, be there late at night. That's how the land is giving over to whoredom. So the Most High was saying, don't commit any of these abominations with anybody that's of your people or the strangers that are amongst you. So it's not like you can go and find an Edomite woman who's a prostitute and feel like that's acceptable. Well, I ain't got to keep the law with her. He said, don't do that with anybody. We're supposed to be the light unto the nations. We're supposed to be exhibiting the law to where they can look at us and say, this is a wise and understanding people. How is it you are going to uphold so much of a standard amongst your own and not have the same standard that you exhibit when you feel like there's less accountability because this person is not Israel? Well, I don't have to keep the laws. That's not the case. With any of them, we're not supposed to be committing acts of fornication. Go ahead.
Verse 27, for all these abominations have the men of the land done, which were before you, and the land is defiled. That is that the land spewed not you out also when ye defile it, as it spewed out the nations that were before you.
Go ahead.
For whosoever shall commit any of these abominations, even the souls that commit them shall be cut off from amongst their people.
So anyone that does these things, he said, your soul has to be cut off from amongst the people. And that's why the scriptures say you can't keep Passover with a fornicator. You can't have any fornicators amongst you. Once we see that people are doing those things, they have to separate themselves from the body. You can, at that point, the Most High said he'll have mercy upon whom he'll have mercy. Whether or not your salvation is over, that's going to be determined by the Most High. We do see an instance in the scriptures with King David where the Most High still gave him that opportunity in that space of repentance, regardless of his offense. However, I wouldn't bank on that for all of us because he said he's going to have mercy upon whom he'll have mercy. And I just recently, I believe Thursday, talked about it. A lot of people want the mercy that David got, but who's willing to give what he gave? And who has that same faith and that same zeal? That's very likely and more reasonable for us to be able to understand on a carnal level while the Most High was dealing with him to that level. So anyone who commits these things, it says, we will be cut off from amongst the people. Those people will be cut off. Go ahead.
Verse 30, therefore shall ye keep my ordinances, Salakia. Therefore ye shall keep mine ordinances, that ye commit not any one of these abominable customs which were committed before you, and that ye defile not yourselves therein. I am the Lord your God.
So the Most High kept repeating, don't do any of these things because that's what's going to cause you to get cast out of the land. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 20. Let's start at verse 10.
Leviticus chapter 20 and verse 10. And the man that committeth adultery with another man's wife, even he that committeth adultery with his neighbor's wife, the adulterer and the adulteress shall surely be put to death.
So not only is it that you'll be cut off from amongst the people, and that's what I was getting at. I forgot where I was going with my previous point. That's a sin worthy of death, right? So if someone is a fornicator, if someone commits an act of adultery, fornication, whatever the case may be, they're cut off from amongst the people. Your salvation, we don't determine that. Man doesn't determine whether or not you can make it into the kingdom as far as, if you choose to repent for the rest of your days. I'm not going to sit up here and say, oh, I know the Most High ain't going to do this, or I know the Most High is going to do this. We see the one example, but more than likely, we already understand judgment. He said that these sins are worthy of death. But that's definitely something where you can't be amongst the body. You can't be amongst a congregation having committed iniquity of this degree. He says that that whosoever it is that commits adultery, the man and the woman should be put to death. Go ahead.
And the man that lieth with his father's wife have uncovered his father's nakedness. Both of them shall be surely put to death. Their blood shall be upon them.
So even the whole stepmom thing, right? I feel like that's been very heavily fetishized at this point. That's been something that people again glory in, but that's something that is worthy of death in the eyes of the Most High. Both of them, because like I said, it takes two to be able to commit adultery. Go ahead.
And if a man lie with his daughter-in-law, both of them shall surely be put to death. They have wrought confusion; their blood shall be upon them. Mm-hmm. If a man also lie with with mankind, as he lieth with woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them.
And again, that's talking about homosexuality. So all of these are sins worthy of death. All of these where he says these are abominations, he said that's worthy of death. That's like a, what do you call that? Worthy of capital punishment. All these things, the adultery, the fornication, and he got specific with who's considered your near of kin. Go ahead.
Verse 14, and if a man take a wife and her mother, it is wickedness. They shall be burnt with fire, both he and they, that there be no wickedness among you.
So what I mentioned earlier, back in Leviticus 18, how it says a mother and a daughter, not just at the same time, because I knew that this scripture is more clear. It's not talking about at the same time. You can't uncover them at the same time, but you literally cannot take a woman and then take her daughter. That is also considered wickedness. Now, keep in mind, this is why the law is important, because in our eyes, there may not be anything wrong with that. If they were both unmarried, they were both single at the time that you married them, they're not betrothed, anything like that, you would think that that is a lawful marriage. But in the Most High's eyes, he said that it is wickedness, and they shall be burnt with fire. That's the capital punishment. So we can't have multi-generational marriages to the same person. It said that the two women that did that and the man is guilty. All of them are guilty of the blood. So, and that's something, those are laws to be able to understand, because say you and your mother come into the truth as a woman, right? Good man. He's a little older, but he's a good man. Somewhere in between both of you guys' ages to where it can seem acceptable, but it's not lawful in the eyes of the Most High. It's wicked. Go ahead.
Verse 15, and if a man lie with a beast, he shall surely be put to death, and ye shall slay the beast. And if a woman approach unto any beast and lie down thereto, thou shalt kill the woman and the beast. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them.
So that's the not only does that person who decides to lay with an animal have to be put to death, even the animal is making a conscious choice to enter in. Because animals don't get randomly, I'm not going to say they don't get randomly confused, but they already know the difference between another animal and a human. So both of them have to be put to death. Even that animal can't continue to live. Go ahead.
17, and if a man shall take his sister, and if a man shall take his sister, his father's daughter, or his mother's daughter, and see her nakedness, and she see his nakedness, it is a wicked thing, and they shall be cut off in the sight of their people. He hath uncovered his sister's nakedness; he shall bear his iniquity. And if a man shall lie with a woman having her sickness, and shall uncover her nakedness, he hath discovered her fountain, and she hath uncovered her, and she hath uncovered the fountain of her blood. And both of them shall be cut off from among their people.
So again, the whole running red lights, right? I literally saw there is, I don't even know what it's called, but there's a garment, and it's like basically a latex material that is in the shape of underpants, and it has a slot for a male's member. And it pretty much, the advertisement was saying, never let that time of the month stop you again, something along those lines. So it's not like these things are foreign, right? People use condoms all the time, or we're going to put a towel down. You get these things are being made. It's not like these are uncommon or this is just such a foreign thing. This is Egypt all over again, constantly promoting all the different ways that are unlawful to be able to lie with either each other or with all other different things that we try to put ourselves into. Go ahead.
19, right? Okay. And thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy mother's sister, nor of thy father's sister, for he uncovereth his near kin. They shall bear their iniquity.
I'm sorry, one more thing. I was going to say that also shows the severity. It can't be no slip up. Oh, we were both burning, and she's on her period, or she said for the time that she separated for her uncleanness, you cannot enter into her. You cannot, it says uncover the fountain of her blood. There's no vaginal sex. You cannot be engaged with that. Go ahead.
And if a man shall lie with his uncle's wife, he hath uncovered his uncle's nakedness. They shall bear their sin, and they shall die childless. And if a man shall take his brother's wife, it is an unclean thing. He hath uncovered his brother's nakedness. They shall be childless. Ye shall therefore keep all my statutes and my judgments and do them, that the land whither I bring you to, Salakia, whether the Salakia, the land whither I bring you to dwell therein, spew you not out. And ye shall not walk in the manner of the nation, the manners of the nation which I cast out before you, for they committed all these things, and therefore I abhorred them. But I have said unto you, ye shall inherit their land, and I will give it unto you to possess it, and a land that floweth with milk and honey. I am the Lord your God, which have separated you from other people. Ye shall therefore put differences between clean beast and unclean, and between clean fowls and clean, and between unclean fowls and clean. And ye shall not make your souls abominable by beast or by fowl, or by any manner of living thing that creepeth on the ground, which I have separated from you as unclean. And ye shall be holy unto me, for I am the Lord. For I, the Lord, am holy, and have severed you from other people, that ye should be mine.
So the Most High literally said that we're supposed to be holy. So he said no matter what it is, clean or unclean beasts, the fowls, we're supposed to be a holy people, not making ourselves unclean, not making ourselves committing any type of abominations. So obviously, we don't have the same ability to be able to keep ourselves clean. First and foremost, we don't have a temple or a tabernacle, and we don't have the same level of separation between unclean and clean. You know, meat processing plants, it's not like they separating all the meat. They feeding it through the same machinery. You go get yourself a pizza, you might get cheese, and, you know, the blade that they're using, they're not separating these things. It's not like a woman who's unclean is going to separate herself from the city, or anyone who's engaging in wickedness is separating themselves. So, you know, we are in the land of uncleanness, but we are still trying to strive to be able to be holy. And the only way at that point, outside of purifying yourselves, would be to have a clean spirit, right? Not to engage in these things. We're renewing our thoughts. We're forming and fashioning ourselves into these new men and women through Yahweh Shai. Let's go from there. Go to Romans chapter 1, verse 20. Count 1 and 20.
The book of Romans chapter 1 and verse 20. For the invisible thing of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. Because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools, and changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like to a corruptible man, and to birds, and to four-footed beasts, and creeping things. Therefore God also gave them up to uncleanness through their lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves.
Go ahead.
Who changed the truth of God into a lie, and worshipped and served the creature more than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. For this cause God gave them up unto vile affections, for even their woman did change the natural use into that which is against nature.
So he said, I'm sorry, hold on for just a quick second. He said, change the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like to corruptible men. So this is talking about the wickedness of the world, right? And oftentimes the wickedness of our people. Vain imaginations, foolish heart that was darkened, professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. And then they started, this is speaking of idolatry, right? Changing the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like to corruptible man. How many times, especially, that was another big thing that Egypt was known for, right? Idolatry. They had gods for so many different things, right? Gods for the bugs, gods for the seasons, gods for the sun and moon, gods for fertility, all these different things. And it says that they literally took, and they would worship these things as if it was the Most High. And our people, as soon as we had come out of the land of Egypt, when Moses went into the mountain, that was the first thing that the children of Israel had done, was to make a golden calf and to worship this, saying, "This is your God. This is who brought you out of Egypt." So, doing all of those things, it says the Most High would give them up. Excuse me. The Most High would give them up to their vile affections. Even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature. Go ahead.
27. And likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lust one toward another, men with men, working that which is unseemly.
So he said, leaving the natural use of a woman, burned in lust one toward another. Talking about homosexuality, right? Go ahead.
Men with men working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error which was met.
So even it says which was meet, which means like the punishment that they received is they're worthy of that punishment. So even in the New Testament, we're seeing that those laws and those actions are still unlawful. Those laws are still in effect, right? All of these things are still, let's actually go to Matthew chapter 5, verse 17. All of these things are still in effect. It's easy to look at the old, or I'm not going to say it's easy, but so often people look at the Old Testament and they say, well, that's the Old Testament. That's no longer instated. Christ nailed that to the cross, whatever the different doctrines are that people have been convinced of, right? Matthew 5, let's start with verse 17 down to 18.
Think not that I come to destroy the law or the prophets. I come not to destroy, but to fulfill. I verily say, for verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled.
So Christ said, don't think that I'm come to destroy the law. Crazy how many people have the impression that Christ literally came to do away with the laws and that we're no longer under this covenant, when that was one of the first things he said, look, I'm not coming to just disannul everything that's been established. That's not the case. Now, you read in Hebrews chapter 9 and chapter 10 that Christ did fulfill or bring to a conclusion the sacrificial law. But he said, as far as all the laws are concerned, why would it make sense that the Most High put so many people to death for wickedness, then turn around and say, okay, it's all cool now? Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not murder. All right, yeah, y'all go ahead and just start killing and murdering each other. No, that's not what the Most High has established. And that's what Christ was coming to show. This is not what I'm here for. I'm not doing away with all those things. Then he said, till heaven and earth passed, one jot or one tittle. A jot is the little, if you write a lowercase j, that little dot, that's a jot. And a tittle is if you write a T, that little line that goes across, that to make it a T, that's a tittle. It says, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. So the laws are still in effect. All of the things that were declared unlawful from the beginning are still unlawful. All of the things that we've been told not to partake of, not to touch, not to eat, all of those things are still in effect to this day. So we've looked at so many instances of what not to do. Then oftentimes people ask, as far as acts of sexuality, right? What is lawful, what is not? You know, people asked oral, backdoor bandit, just all these different things and what's lawful. Let's go to Hebrews chapter 13. Are we able to do this? Are we able to do that? Is it okay to partake of this and partake of that? Yeah, 13 and 4.
The book of Hebrews chapter 13 and verse 4. Marriage is honorable in all, and the bed undefiled.
So he says, look, what a husband and wife do together is undefiled. We are still a holy people. There still should be a level of holy that we're maintaining. But the Most High pretty much was like, look, do your thing. There's not a restriction that's placed on a husband and wife if they're coming together. I might be into some things that y'all can keep between yourselves. He said the bed is undefiled. Go ahead.
But whoremongers and adulterers, God will judge.
But again, the law still has to be in effect. So whoremongering is a man that takes a number of different women and doesn't actually marry them. Adultery, right? stepping outside of your marriage. He said those things are still not lawful. But when it comes to a lawful marriage, when it comes to a man and a woman, that's y'all business. So those are the things as far as physical fornication. Let's talk about spiritual fornication. Let's go to Jeremiah. Jeremiah chapter 3. We're going to start at verse 5, and we're going to read down to 13.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 3, and verse 5. Will he reserve his anger forever? Will he keep it to the end? Behold, thou hast spoken and done evil things as thou couldest.
So he's saying, is the Most High going to be angry forever? Is he going to, once you upset the Most High, that's it? You just never have a chance to be able to make it right with him? Behold, thou hast spoken and done evil things as thou couldest. Like, basically, you didn't have any restraint, any discipline. Go ahead.
The Lord said unto me in the days of Josiah the king, Hast thou seen that which backsliding Israel hath done? She is gone up upon every high mountain and under every green tree, and there hath played the harlot.
So he says, he was speaking, he said, have you seen what Israel has done? This is not speaking of a particular person. It's speaking about the nation. But when you read Jeremiah 6:2, he says, I've likened the daughter. Matter of fact, let's get there real quick. Let's flip over Jeremiah 6:2.
Jeremiah chapter 6 and verse 2. I have likened the daughter of Zion to a comely and delicate woman.
So when he's speaking of Israel, he's saying, I'm looking at this nation as a beautiful, a comely, and a delicate woman. So when he says, hast thou seen which backsliding Israel had done, she is gone up upon every high mountain and under every green tree, and there played the harlot. He's basically like, man, our people was moving as a whore. Like, you, man, look at the way that she's going. Go ahead. Jeremiah 3, let's go back to verse 7.
And I said, after she had done all these things, turn thou unto me, but she returned not, and her treacherous sister Judah saw it.
So Judah and Israel are still talking about the nation of Israel. Israel mentioning or meaning the northern 10 tribes, which was considered Israel. And then when the southern kingdom broke off from Israel, that was considered Judah. So the Most High was pleading with Israel, saying, you know, come back, do right. It says, but then Judah saw it. So the northern kingdom had already gone off heavily into idolatry. You can read that in the history of the scriptures, you know, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, Judges. You see all the different times where our people went into wickedness, the different things that influenced that wickedness, and how the two kingdoms being split had pretty much governed themselves as individuals. Go ahead.
And I saw, when for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, I had put her away and given her a bill of divorce. Yet her treacherous sister Judah feared not, but went and played the harlot also.
So if you're reading this, right, and again, if you had no context of who Israel and Judah are, it sounds like he's speaking of two women, because that's how the Most High said he's looking at our nation. So when the northern kingdom goes and they started playing the whore, meaning they were serving other gods, because how do you commit adultery in a spiritual relationship? We're not literally engaging in any kind of sexual acts in the spirit. We can only do those things, or we're only doing those things within the flesh, right? But the way that you commit spiritual fornication is to go and serve another God. Because the Most High literally said, I am married to you, right? He literally calls this a marriage. So in a marriage, a woman can't just go sleep with anyone. She can't even move just any old kind of way. The scriptures even talk about if a man finds uncleanness within his wife. Maybe she hasn't necessarily committed full-blown adultery, but she's given him a hell of a suspicion to be able to substantiate, nah, I don't trust you. Now I see something in you that makes it seem as though, or that gives me this impression to where I believe that something has transpired. So he's saying, after all that happened with the northern kingdom, Judah saw it and still went and partook of those things as well. It said, but I had put her away and given her a bill of divorce. So the Most High wasn't dealing with the northern kingdom. He got to a point where he was like, look, I'm not about to deal with them. I'm just going to deal with the southern kingdom. And yet the southern kingdom still went and did wickedness as well. Go ahead.
Verse 9. And it came to pass through the lightness of her whoredom that she defiled the land and committed adultery with stones and with stocks.
So literally, our people were bowing down to all different types of things, constantly making idols, carving them out of wood, shaping them out of stone, making them out of gold. Most High was like, y'all committing adultery with stones and stocks. Go ahead.
And yet, for all this, her treacherous sister Judah hath not turned unto me with her whole heart, but feignedly, Salakia, saith the Lord. And the Lord said unto me, the backsliding Israel hath just, Salakia is split. And the backsliding Israel hath justified herself more than the treacherous Judah. Go and proclaim these words toward the north, and say, Return, thou backsliding Israel, saith the Lord, and I will not cause mine anger to fall upon you. For I am merciful, saith the Lord, and I will keep not my anger forever.
So all praises to the Most High. As wicked as we've been, right? As much as we've done, he said, man, look at Israel. You playing the whore, playing the harlot everywhere. You're literally going to serve all these gods. He said on the hills, under every tree, because that's oftentimes where idols are, right? People put them under trees, put them in the shade. They, go to, what do you call those? Sacred sites, right? And then also people oftentimes would build temples on top of hills. He's saying, I can see all the wickedness and all the whoredom that you're committing. He said, but yet and still, even after everything that y'all have done, come back. Make sure to start doing right. He said, I'm not going to be angry forever. We don't even do that as mortals, but that's the type of love that the Most High has for us. And that's how serious he's taking his covenant. As mortals, we've been given the right, if a woman commits adultery against her husband, that he's able to cut her off, right? But the Most High is saying, even though that's the case for you guys, he was like, I'm not going to deal with you all on that same level. He said, I'm not going to be angry forever. If all you have to do is return, I'm not going to cause my anger to fall on you. Go ahead.
Verse 13, only acknowledge thine iniquity, that thou hast transgressed against the Lord thy God, and hast scattered thy ways to the strangers under every green tree, and ye have not obeyed my voice, saith the Lord.
He said, only acknowledge your iniquity. Like, man, recognize that you're doing wrong. Change it. Get rid of those things. Get rid of the temples. Get rid of the, the customs. Get rid of the idols. Get rid of all those things. He said, even though you haven't obeyed my voice, all I want you to do is acknowledge your iniquity and start to do right. Let's flip over to Ezekiel chapter 16. Ezekiel chapter 16, we're going to read verse 1 through 26.
Ezekiel chapter 16 and verse 1. Gain the word of the Lord. Salakia. Again, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, because Jerusalem caused Jerusalem to know her abominations, and say, Thus saith the Lord God unto Jerusalem, Thy birth and thy nativity is of the land of Canaan. Thy father was an Amorite, and thy mother was a Hittite. And for thy nativity, in the day thou was born, thy navel was not cut, neither was thou washed in water to supple thee. Thou was not salted at all, nor swaddled at all. None I pitied thee to do any of these unto thee, to have compassion upon thee. But thou wast cast out in the open field to the loathing of thy person in the day that thou was born.
So this is how the Most High said he was looking at Israel. He said, man, when you was born, the nativity of your land of Canaan, your father was an Amorite and your mother was a Hittite. Basically, like if you look at those nations, right, Hamite nations, the things that they engage in, the things that the Most High is basically saying, like, you wasn't really worth nothing, right? He said, your navel wasn't cut, neither were you washed in water to supple thee. You weren't salted or swaddled. Like, basically, we wasn't being taken care of. This is how the Most High is looking at us. Imagine if you had seen a child still connected with its umbilical cord, still bloody, hasn't been washed, it hasn't been swaddled. It's like zero care that was taken for it. Go ahead.
And when I passed by thee and saw thee polluted in thine own blood, I said unto thee, when thou wast in thy blood, live. Yea, I said unto thee, when thou wast in thy blood, live.
So he was like, man, even though I saw you in such a low estate, I saw you in such a low position, I had compassion upon you. And even when I saw you polluted in your blood, I told you to live. Go ahead.
I have caused thee to multiply, and the bud of the field, Salakia, I have caused thee to multiply as the bud of the field, and thou hast increased and waxen great, and thou art come, Salakia, and thou art come to excellent ornaments. Thy breasts are fashioned, and thine hair is grown, whereas thou wast naked and bare. Now when I passed by thee and looked upon thee, behold, thou was the time of love, and I spread my skirt over thee and covered thy nakedness. Yea, I swear unto thee, and entered into a covenant, Salakia, into a covenant that thee, with thee, Salakia, saith the Lord God, and thou becamest mine.
So the Most High was saying, even after all of that, now he said, I caused you to be able to bud. He said, multiply as the bud of the field. He's like, I covered you. Now you looking nice, right? I didn't fix you up. Go ahead.
Then washed I thee with water. Yea, I thoroughly washed away thy blood from thee, and I anointed thee with oil.
So, and I'm sorry, and another thing, he said, I entered into a covenant with you. I covered you. So it's not like the Most High was just like, man, y'all was great. Y'all was so amazing. That's oftentimes the mentality that we take on. Like, we were so great. We're so amazing. We're guaranteed the kingdom. We're guaranteed all the things that are coming to us. And the Most High was like, man, even when I picked you up, you wasn't all that. I chose to have compassion on you. I chose to pick you up when you was in the worst of the worst. Go ahead.
I clothed thee also with broidered work, and shod thee with badger's skin, and I girded thee about with fine linen, and I covered thee with silk.
So look how the Most High is speaking about Israel, right? Still speaking in a manner or a perspective that we can understand. Imagine seeing a woman or seeing someone that was in such a state. You build him up, you raise him up, and he ain't just like, man, just because I found you in the gutter, I'm not treating you like you of that caliber. I'm not treating you like you trash. I'm not treating you like you are nothing to me. He said, I clothe thee with broidered work. Yeah, we have a lot of machines and things today, but try to make some embroidery by hand. That's a lot of work. That's a very expensive and a very intricate piece. The Most High said, I gave you that. Girded thee about. He said, shod thee with badger skin and girded thee about with fine linen, covered thee with silk. Go ahead.
I decked thee also with ornaments, and put bracelets upon thy hands, and a chain on thy neck.
Like, man, I got you glitz and glammed up. Go ahead.
And I put a jewel on thy forehead, and earrings on thine ears, and a beautiful crown upon thy head. Thus was thou decked with gold and silver, and thy raiment was of fine linen and silk and broidered work. Thou didst eat fine flour and honey and oil, and thou wast exceeding beautiful, and thou didst prosper into a kingdom, and thy renown went forth among the heathen for thy beauty, for it was perfect through my comeliness, which I had put upon thee, saith the Lord God.
So he said, man, after I took care of you that way and I gave you so much, he said, now, everybody's starting to look at you. Whereas when you were dirty, we were filthy, you were polluted, didn't nobody look at you, didn't nobody care. Everybody was passing by. Nobody pitied you. He said, I made you so beautiful that now everybody's paying attention to you. Go ahead.
But thou didst trust in thine own beauty, and playedest the harlot because of thy renown, and pourest out thy fornication on everyone that passed by. His it was.
Now look at that, right? He's saying, but you trusted in your own beauty. After me taking you from nothing to something, now all of a sudden you feel like you just always had it. You always got it. You what do they call it? You smelling yourself. You became prideful. You trusted in your own beauty. When ultimately he said right above that, for it was perfect through my comeliness. We're only what we are because the Most High made us that way. We look at all these battles, and there is a lot of pride to be taken in the fact that we're Israel, but mainly because we're chosen. All the battles that we've won, we have had some excellent tacticians, some amazing generals, some incredible forefathers, all praises to the Most High for all of them. But when you see the battles that we went up against, 300 versus 10,000, a few thousand versus, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, logistically speaking, it doesn't make sense that we win these battles. Doesn't even really make sense that we exist as many nations as have come against us, but in all those things, the Most High fought for us, and that's the only reason why we're still around. How many times do we read about our enemies trying to wipe us all out? Different kings, Herod, who was the other one? Hammond. Plenty of our enemies who are in positions of power to be able to make calls or put things into decree and to try and completely wipe us out. Nicanor. But the Most High fought for us in every one of those instances and kept us around through the hands of the righteous. All praises to the Most High. He says, so you trusted in your own beauty and played the harlot because of thy renown. Pretty much when you have a whole lot of options, that's when a woman starts to get a little, she can get a little antsy, right? Whole lot of people looking. They have that saying in the world, right? A woman will be whatever it is if the right man asks. That's how the Most High is looking at Israel. He's saying, man, you played the harlot because you was known, and you poured out your fornications on everyone that passed by. His it was. Basically, we was giving ourselves to anybody. Every God, every doctrine, every religion, every understanding. We would allow those things to come in, and we would be playing the whore in those ways. Go ahead.
Verse 16, and of thy garments thou didst take, and deckest.
Actually, I'm sorry. That's all I needed.
Okay.
Actually, no. Keep reading. My bad.
16, and of thy garments thou didst take, and deckest thy high places with diverse colors, and playedest the harlot thereupon. The like thing shall not come, neither shall it be so. Thou hast also taken thy fair jewels of my gold and of my silver, which I have given thee, and madest to thyself images of men, and didst commit whoredom with them.
So the Most High was saying, you took all these things and everything that I gave you, and you started to make it into something ugly, something like a whore. He said, and you took the gold and the silver that I gave you, and you made images of men. We see that, like I said, when we came out of Egypt, how our people built the golden calf. That wasn't the first time or the last time, I believe, that our people had built that golden calf. Our people would take silver and gold and try to make these idols and these images as beautiful and as valuable to us as we can make them, in so much that we end up committing idolatry after these things. Go ahead.
And tookest thy broidered garments and coveredst them, and thou hast set mine oil and my incense before them.
So imagine, man. Imagine if you sit up here and you give a woman everything. You took her when didn't nobody want her. Everybody was willing to overlook her, ignore her. Nobody cared even about her situation. You raise her up. You clean her up, right? You build her up. You give her everything as far as the beauty, decked with silver and gold, fine linen and silk, broidered work. She takes that and starts playing a whore because she's known. She takes the gold and the silver and makes it into idols that you have no interest of and told her not to do, right? She takes the beautiful things that you gave her to be able to wear, and she's giving that to something else. I mean, imagine how, if you've ever had somebody take a jacket that was yours and give it to another man. The Most High is saying man, Israel, you did all of that to me. You took those beautiful things and you set them before these idols. Before things that couldn't even do anything for us. Time and time again, total slap in the face, coming out of Egypt and immediately worship gold. Go ahead.
My meat also, which I gave thee, fine flour and oil and honey, wherewith I fed thee, thou hast even set it before them for a sweet savor. And thus it was, saith the Lord God.
He said, man, everything that I gave you. So imagine, that would just make you regret and feel devastated about giving that person anything. Can't believe I gave you that gold and that silver. Can't believe I let you in like that. Just for you to take these things and give it to somebody else. just for you to take these things and show me how invaluable you thought that they were. Go ahead.
Verse 20.
Uh-huh.
Moreover, thou hast taken thy sons and
I'm sorry. One more thing. And then even he said the food. He said, my meat also, which I gave thee, fine flour, oil, and honey. You ever had like steak that got that little bit of sweet to it, the lamb with a little bit of sweet to it? But not, it be fire though. It smelled good, it looked good, it tastes good. He said, you took everything that I gave you and you went and gave it to somebody else. This is how we commit spiritual fornication. Because when you relate this to being a man, you can see like that's enough. Some men literally kill themselves. They commit suicide after giving a woman that much to have her betray him and break his heart to this level. Some men would just kill themselves. It's just too overwhelming. Obviously, we know that the Most High is not a man, but look at how much Israel has put him through spiritual fornication. We took all the things, all these beautiful things. Imagine you gave a woman a chain and you see her going to give it to somebody else. But this is all I got. But, like, what? The one I gave you, you teach her how to cook. You give her, the right recipe and everything, and she going and she making a plate for somebody else. Oh, my goodness. That's how the Most High is viewing when we go and serve these other gods. That's how the Most High is viewing when we go and offer up these things unto idols. And it's crazy because Israel always be good at being able to give these things to these other gods, but not able to or not willing to give it to the Most High so often. As much as we suffer from toxic relationships, as much as we talk about marriages, this is the ultimate marriage. We're only even still around because our forefathers agreed with this covenant, decided to enter into it, and the Most High has honored it despite all the foul BS that we've done as a people. Hasn't been just one individual here, one individual there, and the Most High was like, man, I'm not dealing with the nation. It's been one good person here and one good person there. And the Most High would be like, okay, for your sake, I'm not going to destroy everybody. You see that with Moses. You see that with Christ. You see that with many of the prophets that had to plead for Israel, of the priests that had to offer sacrifices. Most High has more than enough reasons to cut us off, but still chooses to give us that compassion and say, look, I'm not going to be mad forever. You know how much patience that takes? And it really just blows my mind because I always feel like, and I think it is a certain healthy level of having a conversation with yourself. We were literally just talking about this as far as like understanding that you can be ousted, replaced, understanding that the Most High does not need us, but even to realize like the pressure to be accepted. We feel so much more comfortable trying to do things for someone that we know is going to accept them. I don't think anybody ever goes to like someone that don't have anything. You see a man that's hungry or starving, you take him a plate of food, you're not really worried about if he's going to accept it. Chances are he's so hungry, he's happy to have anything. We'd be glad to give that, right? But then when we're dealing with the Most High doesn't have to forgive us. He hasn't even had to forgive us as many times as he had for all the things that we've done, let alone for us to continue in wickedness and to continue in sin. He said, all the things that I gave you, you gave to someone else. Top of verse 20.
Verse 20. Moreover, thou hast taken thy sons and daughters, whom thou hast borne unto me, and these have Salakia, and these hast thou sacrificed unto them to be devoured. Is this of thy whoredoms a small matter?
So he said, you even took your sons and daughters. The Most High said that whoever opens up the matrix, meaning the firstborn, he said, they're mine, right? The Most High established his covenant. He didn't just say it was with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He said, you and your children after you. So all of us, just by being born a Israelite, has a right to be able to, has a right to the tree of life should we keep the commandments and uphold the covenant. The other nations don't even have a chance. No matter how much they desire or what they feel like they're willing to do, if they're not of Israel, they don't even have the opportunity. Just by being born Israel, we have the opportunity to be able to be saved. He said, but you took your sons and your daughters, which are ultimately supposed to be for the Most High, creating more servants, right? More righteous men and women, and we literally caused them to be sacrificed, to be burned alive for other gods. Go ahead.
21. That thou hast slain my children and delivered them to cause them to pass through the fire for them.
He said, is this a small matter? He was asking, like, is this something small? Like, basically, am I tripping? Do you feel like it's something small that you literally are causing your children? You're burning your children alive, which is something that he doesn't even require. How quickly can we go into wickedness to be able to serve another God, but we won't, do what's required of us by our God? If we was telling people you come into the truth, yeah, man, your firstborn child, whoever it is, however old they are, you gotta go burn them. Wouldn't nobody be in here? Or many of our people would be in the state that they're in. That's not even required. The Most High literally does not command that or require that of us. But yet, when it came to another God, that's when we found the strength to be able to sacrifice our children, to be able to go so hard and be so devoted. Man. Verse 22.
And in all thine abominations and thy whoredoms, thou hast not remembered the days of thy youth, when thou was naked and bare, and was polluted in thy blood.
He said, man, and for all that you're doing, you don't remember how I saved you? For all that you're doing, you don't remember how I changed your life? You don't remember when I found you and what I made you into? He said, for all that, you don't even remember? Go ahead.
And it came to pass, after all thy wickedness, woe unto thee, saith the Lord God, that thou hast also built unto thee an eminent place, and has made thee an high place in every street.
And high place is talking about like temples of other gods. We had built them pretty much everywhere, which is no different than what you see now. You see all these different religions and doctrines all on the same block, all in the hood amongst our communities and our neighborhoods. Go ahead.
Thou hast built thy high place at every head of the way, and hast made thy beauty to be abhorred, and and hast opened thy feet to everyone that passed by, and multiplied thy whoredoms.
So look what he's saying, right? He said, you cause your beauty to be abhorred. It's like something, if you love something so much, that person betray you, they break your heart, then it's like even the things that you used to enjoy about them, you start to hate. You have somebody that you love, you be like, baby, I just love the way you smell. Every morning, I love waking up to that smell. Then they go and they do all this treachery against you. You be like, man, I don't ever want to smell that again. Have somebody you love, you're like, oh, baby, this is our song. Next thing you know, you go through, all these different, going through all of this, you'll hate that song. I don't ever want to hear that song again because it's just reminding me of how much that I used to love this person, whereas look at how they did me in the end. He said, you opened your feet for everyone that passed by. What's between your legs? So you was giving that up to anybody that came, anybody that was coming. It said his it was. And multiplied thy whoredoms. Verse 26.
Thou hast also committed fornication with the Egyptians, thy neighbors, greater flesh, and has increased thy whoredoms to provoke me to anger.
He said you committed fornication with the Egyptians, your neighbors, all the different things, all the different gods, the different doctrines. We went into all those things, not only in physical fornication, but in spiritual fornication as well. Let's go to the last scriptures, Isaiah. So for all these things, we greatly offended against the Most High. We're going to start at chapter 1. Committing spiritual fornication, which our people continue to do to this day. Look at still. Now we're here in Egypt, right? The scriptures call this spiritual Egypt. It says our dead bodies will lie in the streets here. Look at how many doctrines our people still have amongst them. The witches and the warlocks, those were at the end of the chapter that we read in Leviticus. Talking about a wizard, somebody with a familiar spirit, they can't be amongst the people. Look at how many times our people still are serving other gods. You got people talking to their ancestors, or supposedly, and look how far they take it. I've seen a sister, she had some, it was like some money I had never seen. So I'm thinking it's like, oh, you took a trip somewhere. Like, oh, that's interesting. I was like, what's that? Oh, that's ancestor money. I said, what? Not even mocking, but I was like mind blown. She said, yeah, my ancestors are blessing me, so I bless them. Whoa. Mind blowing. I've never even heard a concept. Ancestor money, mind you, that was printed here. That looked like something you could just, any HP in the world, you click print and it's going to give it to you. You cut it out, now you got money for your ancestors. The little candles with whatever that little hand is called, the eye in the middle. So many different doctrines that come out of the Bible, but at least we're close to some level of righteousness if we're sticking with the Bible, but look at all the other things. Our people are into, Islam heavily. How the Most High said you committed adultery with rocks. What is it called? The Kaaba stone, right? You're not a real Muslim if you haven't gone and did the walking around the stone and all the other customs, all these things. Our people are still heavily into idolatry. Now the modern day idolatry is self. The modern day idolatry, 1,000 selfies per day. People don't feel like, they can have the scriptures and, oh, well, I don't feel like that's honoring me. Yeah, I don't really feel like that. Well, don't the Most High want me to have this? You done made yourself a god. Heavily. When you willing to transgress the laws of the Most High to get something that you want, you've made yourself a god. Because in that moment, what you want is greater than what the Most High has stated for you or has intended for you. Committing adultery, you made yourself a god. Your flesh is burning, your desires are strong. You give yourself over to an act that the Most High has told you not to do. At that point, your desire is greater than His will. You made yourself a god. So our people still heavily engage in fornication, but Most High willing will repent and actually get right. Isaiah 1:16, because this is what the Most High has said. As much as let's start at verse 13.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 1 and verse 13.
I'm sorry. As much as we've done wickedness, this is what the Most High is saying to us. Go ahead.
Bring no more vain oblations. Incense is an abomination unto me. The new moons and Sabbaths, the calling of assemblies, I cannot away with. It is iniquity. Even the solemn meeting.
So the Most High is saying, He's like, man, an oblation is like an offering, right? But imagine this, right? This is the reason why the sacrificial law really was why Christ was called to fulfill it. Because if you had the law of sacrifice, it's a very simple, it became transactional. Just like so many other of the things that our people do, we start to look at it like business. We start to devalue the spirituality behind it, and we start to make it seem like it's okay because we can put it in the form of a transaction. So if you committed a sin and you were able to offer an animal in place of your blood or of your death, it was like, oh, I got away with it. So a man commits adultery. He offers 1 out of 300 bulls. I mean, I don't need 300 of them, no way. He might go 20 times and commit adultery 20 times in his life. And in his mind, he's only given 20 of his bullocks, 20 of his bulls. He has 280 more. But in the eyes of the Most High, you're supposed to be dead 20 times. So our people took on the mentality that as long as they could front the bill, they weren't concerned about the effect that it was having with the relationship, the breaking of the covenant. We don't even consider, like, even how the Most High is speaking about this. You can see the personality or the spirit of someone in their work. So when you see that the Most High has written this book or has caused His spirit to be inspired amongst these prophets to write these things, you see how He expresses Himself. You see how He says He experiences anger, how He experiences betrayal, how it's bitter, how it hurts. Everyone looks at the Most High for what they can take and what they can get, and not even taking into consideration. This is a relationship like any other relationship. How do you feel when someone takes what you give them and they make it into something ugly? He said, don't give me no more gifts. How do you feel if somebody treats you like crap, but they always got gifts for you? Man putting his hands on you, but every time he beats you up, he bring you flowers. You get tired of seeing flowers. I don't even want them because I know what I got to get through to get them. That's how the Most High was looking at our people bringing in the sacrifices. Like, man, I'm tired of even smelling this. Yeah, it smelled good, but now it's like I'm ashamed of these things because I know what y'all are doing to have to keep offering this many sacrifices. He said, incense is an abomination unto me. Burning incense at the altar, right? He like, damn, another one? Smell good at first, but how many of y'all gonna burn? He like, man, I don't even want to smell that anymore. I don't even want it. The same thing that we experience, right? We just talked about it. If a woman wears, this special perfume that you ain't never smelled before, but then she goes out and she cheats on you with a bunch of different men, you'll hate that smell. Most High is saying the same thing. Remember, we're reflections of Him. We're a very small reflection of His omnipotence, He goes so far beyond what we can describe or what we can be able to meet as far as excellence and glory. But when we look at ourselves, we can see certain elements that the Most High has put into us. He said, I can't do away with the Sabbath. That's iniquity. Go ahead.
Of 14, your new moons and your appointed feast, my soul hateth. They are a trouble unto me. I am weary to bear them. And when ye spread forth your hands, I will hide mine eyes from you. Yea, when ye make many prayers, I will not hear. Your hands are filled with blood.
He said, man, your new moons and your appointed feast, my soul hated. Why? It's like, because that's every time, as much as we do the Most High wrong, how much do you like to be in the presence of somebody that's doing you wrong? That's just totally disregarding or totally ignoring, like ishing on everything that you gave them, every bit of beauty that you wanted to share with them, and they just take it and it means nothing to them. He was like, man, I hate when y'all come in here for these feasts. He said, and when you spread forth your hands, so when you ask me for something, he said, man, I'm not seeing that. I don't care. I'm going to hide my eyes from you. He said, when you make your prayers, I'm not listening. Verse 16.
Wash you, make you clean. Put away the evil of your doings from before mine eyes. Cease to do evil. Learn to do well. Seek judgment. Relieve the oppressed. Judge the fatherless. Plead for the widow.
So he said, man, wash you, make you clean. Get rid of all those things that you're doing that's making me feel that way. This is a relationship, just like any other relationship. We can talk so much about marriage. Marriage takes work. Marriage takes time. You got to prove. You got to build trust. You have to do all those things with the Most High. The Most High is literally proving us. The Most High is literally giving us an opportunity to show what we're made of and show our worth. The Most High is married to us. The Most High has made a covenant with us that he's not abandoning. All praises. He said, put away all the evil of your doings. Cease to do evil. Learn to do well. Seek judgment. Help the oppressed. Judge the fatherless. Plead for the widow. And so much of what he wants us to do is doing for one another, having that love and that charity amongst each other. Verse 18.
Come now, and let us reason together, saith the Lord. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, they shall be as wool.
He said, come on, now let's be reasonable. Isn't there a time, if you've had, like Paul says, we got troubles in the flesh. I think there comes a time in every man's life, if he's in a turbulent situation with his wife, with his woman, where look, let's be reasonable. Just listen for a second. Look, all that you're doing, all that you've done, everything that you're talking about, like, look, I'm going to level with you for a second. Stop. It don't make sense. Just be reasonable. Chill out. Let this go. That's what the Most High is saying. Let us reason together. Like, look, let's just think about this for a second. And the reality is, like, we need him. He don't need us. He was ready multiple times to just go and start a whole new nation, but decided, you know what, for my name's sake, or because I made this covenant, I'm not going to do that. But he like, look, be reasonable. He said, even though your sins are as scarlet, they shall be white as snow. He like, man, I could put all that behind us if, read verse 19.
If ye be willing and obedient, ye shall eat the good of the land.
He said, if you're willing and obedient. The best apology is change behavior. We really don't desire gifts. Even we don't desire those things. That's how we can understand what the Most High is saying through the scriptures. Because even amongst us, how much do we like gifts? You enjoy them, and you might, if you've ever been in a situation like that where someone treats you terribly and they give you a gift, initially you might even be excited. Wife get the wild and she do some crazy stuff to you, say some crazy stuff. She come home with a PS5. That's the gift you're going to be entertained for a while. You're like, dang, I can't even find one of these. It's still people out there looking for them. She give you a PS5. You're like, dang, that's crazy. She do it again. Then she bring you a Rolex. You like, dang, like that? Sheesh. Most of us ain't even getting this. Huh? You get that wrong, you hoping to get the apology at best. Man, but imagine if somebody was bringing you those things, and after a while you like, I don't even want the gifts. What I really want to do is to be able to put this behind us. that will make you forget everything that they're doing, or that will make you be able to be in a place to forgive. He said, look, if you be willing and obedient, you can eat the fat of the land, the good of the land. Verse 20.
But if ye refuse and rebel, ye shall be devoured with a sword, for the mouth of the Lord hath spoken it.
He said, look, I'm going to give you an opportunity. If you choose to do right, you choose to return, if you try to really work and build this relationship, because the Most High has proven himself. The Most High gave us gifts and things over and over and over. He easily could have said, look, I'm the Lord your God. Here's some lightning or here's some thunderings. All right, look, y'all know what I'm capable of. Serve. He showed us miracles. He delivered us out of the hands of our captives so many times. Delivered us out of the hands of our enemies so many times by a few. Always had someone reserved unto himself so that we would never be cut off. Chose to listen to Moses, because he easily could have said, you know what, Moses? Nah, I've had enough. I'm going to make another nation. But wait, Father, he said, look, I don't care about the heathen, no way. He said, I regard the heathen as spit. All right, for my name's sake. For all the things that we've done, the Most High is still saying, what I want you to do is to get right. That's true love. That's a love that we really don't understand. A man is going to put away a woman if she commits adultery. It's oftentimes viewed as something wrong if he doesn't. But the Most High is saying, even after all that we've done, he said, look, I'm going to still give you that chance. All praises to the Most High. I wanted it to end on that note because I wanted us to still have hope moving forward in the future as far as being Israel, that we still can seek salvation, hoping to be found one of the worthy that the Most High has called up for himself to be near and dear to him. So I hope this lesson was edifying. I hope it was informational and it better explained fornication, both in a physical aspect according to the law as well as the spiritual aspect. All right, Israel, please continue to tune in with us through the week. We have a variety of lessons, a different array of knowledge. Please continue to share these videos so that you can help us spread the gospel. Again, we hope that this was edifying. All praises to the Most High. Shalom.
Shalom.